Hello and welcome to the Care It Out Sleep Show, a podcast for tired parents who are searching for a bit more sleep the caring way. I'm your host, Kerry Secker, infant sleep consultant, founder of my unique sleep approach, Care It Out, and your caring sleep supporter. I really hope you'll join me on my mission to get snores a settled night's sleep without the tears, training or techniques. I love talking about sleep and I can't wait to share my sleep subjects with you. My approach to getting you more sleep is simple, straightforward, but above all, it's got to make sense and feel best for you. Ready to get more sleep? Then let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Care It Out Sleep Show. You are listening to your host, Kerry Secker. I'm an infant sleep consultant, founder of my unique sleep approach, Care It Out, and I am on a mission to get you and your small a settled night's sleep without tears, training or techniques. Welcome to the Sleep Show. Whether this is your first time listening in, or whether you are a seasoned sleep stalker and have listened to every single episode I've put out there for you, big welcome. And as always, I really hope you find the show useful, informative, reassuring, and because that's all I ever want out of these podcast episodes for you, but also that you get some ideas, so I call them sleep suggestions, to put in place at home. This is episode 19, napping under house arrest or lockdown. If you are listening into the future, this is the 22nd of April and we have been in lockdown and in our homes. We're not allowed to leave our homes for unless it's for exercise work for 30 minutes due to the COVID-19 outbreak. I'm working from home and I feel really grateful that I'm able to do that and do the podcast, offer my sleep support from home. It's a really strange and surreal time, and you might be listening. That's strange to think that you might be listening on the other side when we're all out. But lots of us are at home with children. Schools are shut, nurseries are shut, lots of childcare is closed as well. And I thought it might be really good to do a podcast on that. But before I do, I think I've already said it, but I really hope you and your families are all safe and well. And today I am going to be talking about napping when we're at home, because I think this is really poignant for where we are now. The majority of us are at home with the children, and you might have partners working from home. It's just been a massive shift to our daily routines and also what we do, what we're used to. And one of my favourite phrases is change is strange. So there's masses of change at the moment. And for some smalls out there might not be used to napping at home and might be finding it really tricky because they're used to napping out and about in a sling, in a pram, on the school run, going out for a walk. And that's a really big change for them. And any change is strange, I'll keep saying it, and that your small might be finding it really tricky to nap at home. So I thought doing a podcast on this episode would be really super helpful and useful. So today on the show, I'm going to be sharing 5 sleep suggestions that will hopefully help you and your little one nail those naps at home. So sleep suggestion number 1 is your timings might need a tweak. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you might have already done my free nap gap guide. So my whole approach, it's not about shoehorning your small onto a sleep schedule. I, hand on heart, honestly don't believe that there's a one size fits all small, and I don't believe there's a one size small either. We've got this expectation, I think, sometimes that every small is born with the same personality, the same temperament, is going to wake up at the same time every day, nap at the same time every day for the same length, wake up, eat the same thing, have an afternoon nap, go to bed at the same time, sleep the same amount of sleep overnight time, that 12-hour sleep shift, wake up at the same time overnight and behave in the same way overnight as well. And some smalls do this, and there's nothing wrong if your little one is like that. But for the majority, every small is unique, and what works for one might not work for another, and that is a really big part of my approach. There's no right or wrong, it's just finding that something that works for you. Now, I can only speak from my practice and patients, and I'm not saying that overtide is the only reason behind a sleep struggle, because I know I've shared it before, I know this, you probably know this, there's so many different layers to getting to a settled night's sleep. But from a starting place, working to nap gaps, so all I mean by nap gap is the amount of time that your small has between waking up and the time that they next need to get to sleep. Nap gaps, wake windows, they're all the same thing, but I call them nap gaps. And my free nap gap, I believe that this information, sometimes just following the age appropriate nap gaps can be a complete game changer for your sleep. And that's all I ever want for you, is that you get to that settled night's sleep like it's working for you. So then they're not gospel, but they're a guide, and it's a great place to get started. And I believe that this information needs to be accessible, available to everybody. So I have made a free video of this. So when I'm talking about nap gaps, I'll put the link in the show notes for you. And if you haven't already done it, and you're new to the podcast, you're new to my Instagram, you've just started following me on Facebook, this is where I recommend everybody starting. Because it's the most likely reason behind a sleep struggle. And as I said before, sometimes it's a blooming game changer. Get those nap gaps in and it changes everything. For some, it won't. It's not a guarantee or given, but it can get you in a position then to start working on other things. And see, it's always the first thing I look at when I'm working with families one-to-one in my practice. And yeah, I'll put the nap gap guide, the recommended, all the age appropriate. There's too many letters on my approach, too much rhyming and alliteration. What I'll do, I've put all my nap gaps, age appropriate nap gaps, in a video for you. They're called my nap gap guide or sleep freebie, and they go by age and stage in there. Go through them all, and what I'll do is I'll put the link to that. It's a free video, and I'll put the link to that in the show notes for you. So if you are already following the nap gap guide, or you are going to go and do my free video and find out the nap gap guides, just remember they are a guide. They're not intended to be gospel. My whole approach is not a one size fits all solution. But if you are following the nap gap guide, what you might find is that your timings need a tweak. And the reason for this is, two main things really. One, your small might not be burning off as much energy, groups are shut, classes are out, we're not going out and about, we're not going to the park, we're not mixing with other people. And these things, you don't need me to tell you this, can be tiring and help your little one to build up their peak pressures so they can go down for a nap. So one, your small might not be burning off the same amount of energy that they're used to. So quite simply, they might not be not have enough tide in their tank to have a nap. And also, I really hope this doesn't cause offence, being at home isn't always as mentally stimulating. When you're going out and about, your little one is seeing lots of different things for the first time. And this can be very mentally stimulating, engaging and tiring. And at home, it's all familiar. You don't necessarily need lots of brain power to do that. And that can also have an effect because, again, they're not tired enough to go down for their nap. So my suggestion if your little one is just having a really tricky time with naps at the moment, would be to come back and just take a look and see whether their timings need a tweak. If you're following the age appropriate nap gaps, you might find that they're not tired when you start putting them down, and then they're going to have a battle, because just as much as I talk about overtiredness, undertiredness is definitely a thing too. So many different layers. And what you might find is that you need to grow the gaps. And all I mean by growing the gaps is you might need to push the nap gaps. You might need to put your small down later for a nap than they're used to, just to kind of offset that they're not burning off that energy, they're not being mentally as stimulated as they would outside. I'm not for one second, when I said, I hope that doesn't offend anybody, I'm not for one second saying that you're boring at home, but it is something to bear in mind. So sleep session number 1 is come back and look at your timings. Your timings might need a tweak, and you might need to grow the gaps so they've built up enough tide in their tank for them to settle down for their nap okay. Sleep suggestion number 2 is switch up their sleep space. So when I'm talking about sleep space here, I use sleep space for 2 things. One, when they're not asking for support, they're just emotionally easy. That's if you followed me for a long time, you might have heard me call that sleep space. And the other one, when I refer to sleep space, I'm also talking about environment where they're sleeping. And in this case, when I'm talking about sleep space, this is what I mean, their sleeping environment. Now, at home, what we have to bear in mind, take into consideration, is that your small might not be used to napping at home. And again, any change is strange, so they're going to find that hard. But also, at home, they've got it's familiar, and they've got all their toys and playthings around. And with the best will in the world, I would even find it really hard if I was trying to take a nap in my office, because I'd sit on my nice comfy chair and then I'd be like, I'm just going to do my emails, or I'm just going to go and record that podcast, or I'm just going to go and write that thing down before I forget about it. And it's the same for your small. If we're expecting them to fall asleep in their play or day area with all their toys around them, all their playthings, they are going to find it hard to switch off, just as we're going to do. So this is also something that I would also recommend or suggest having a look at. The other thing is if you've got a really busy bee on your hands, because again, not all babies are born with the same temperament or personality. It's amazing the expectations we put on our smalls, isn't it? Again, there's this expectation that every baby's born with the same personality and temperament. They're definitely not. That's definitely not been my experience. And I don't know it all, but I've worked with families for a long time. They're all really different. And some smalls are just more alert and high needs than others, and they find it very, very difficult to switch off. They need it calm, dark and quiet. So this is particularly important, I think. If you've got a busy bee on your hands, they are going to find it very difficult to fall asleep with all the family around, maybe the other parent around, siblings around, in their play area with all their things around them, just as I would find it very hard to nap in my office. So one suggestion that you might need to look at is having a look at their sleep space or their sleep environment. And it can be really useful sometimes to have a consistent place for sleeping, and that might not be possible. Again, life logistics, you might not have a big home, flat, apartment, wherever you're living. You might not be able to do that, and if you can't, I would even try and carve out a little corner, like a nap corner, where even if it's a corner of your lounge, where you put some cushions down, make it calm, quiet, take the toys off, take the toys away, take the toys out. That can really help. And if that's not possible, because again, we're all different, we all live in different environments, we all live very differently, my suggestion would be that before you start putting them down for a nap, is try to give them a little bit of transition time. Start tidying away the toy, say goodnight to the toys, close the curtains, get it calm, quiet and clear as possible, and that can help massively as well. If they are napping in their bedroom or your bedroom, you've got somewhere calm and quiet to take them, I would recommend trying to make that as calm, quiet and dark as possible. So blackout blinds are your friends at the moment. There's a lot of people, again, we all live really differently. Where I am at the moment, there's lots of children out and about. I live in a big apartment block, big London block, lots of children in their gardens, and parents out, families out chatting and shrieking whilst in lockdown, which is fine. We've got to make the most of it, but that can have an impact if your little one can see and hear them. So close the windows if you can. You might need to keep them open a crack if it's hot, but get it calm, get it quiet if you can. And the other one is white noise as well. I think now that, again, I've just noticed it. I don't have children. Many of you will know that, yeah. But I've noticed being at home, I just hear, maybe it's because I am home myself, normally I work from an office, but I'm hearing my neighbours a lot more. Hi, Amanda, if you're listening. Like, you'll hear them upstairs. You just hear them going about their daily life. It's just part of living next to each other and being part of that community. I'm not complaining about it at all. But that can be, there's more day noise now, is what I'm trying to say. And white noise can really help your little one settle. So sleep suggestion number 2 is that you might need to switch up their sleep space. If you've got lots of smalls, are going to find it very hard napping in their play areas with other siblings, a member of the family around. If you can, I would try and take them to a consistent place for napping. Might not be the bedroom, it might just be that you go to a certain part of the dining room, the lounge, go in the garden for a bit. But babies love consistency because they know what's coming, they can expect it, they can anticipate it, and that helps them switch off. So that can be really helpful as well. That's a really good one for really small babies. If they're not sleeping in their bedroom, or it's hard to get them to nap anywhere else, I would try and tidy the toys away as much as possible and get it as dark and quiet as possible, and that can help as well. Sleep suggestion number 3 is signal it's snooze time. Now, lots of us do that bedtime routine at bedtime because we know how important it is. If you've been listening to me on the sleep show for a while, you'll know that I often talk about how important a bedtime routine is. It's not going to be, I think it's a little bit unrealistic to do bath, bottle, boob, book and bed, and your little one's going to have a triumphant night. But it can really help. What a bedtime routine does is it calms, cues them, and lets them know that there's a transition and sleep is coming. And it's the same for nap times, especially being at home, because again, I've noticed this with myself. All the boundaries are blurring. I wake up in the morning, and I normally work from an office, which granted is only 2-3 minutes away from my flat, but it really helps separate out work Kerry, home Kerry. And at the moment, I wake up in the morning and I'd never normally do that in the office. I'd go and exercise or do something or go out. Now I can't. I'm straight into I have to try really hard not to go and put my laptop on straight away or set up a podcast or do something. And at night time, I'm finding it really difficult to just leave the office because I'm working in my laundry room with my husband's, not my parents' pants, my husband's pants flapping in the background. So it is really tricky, and boundaries can get really blurred, and I think this is really important when it comes to naps. So my sleep suggestion number 3 is to signal it's snooze time for naps as well. So just as we do it for bedtime routine, have a little nap routine as well. And I think this is even more important if they're napping at home, because just as what I've just gone through, those boundaries can really blur, and it can be really hard to make those transitions from playing to having a nap, finishing work, going home. It can be really, really helpful, and it doesn't need to be really super complicated. It doesn't need to be long either, so it doesn't need to be as long as the bedtime routine. It doesn't need to have a bath or be super convoluted. It can be as simple as just doing the same 2 or 3 things in the same order 10-15 minutes before your small's nap is due. And what that does is it helps with that transition going from playtime, nap time, home time into having a rest, but it also lets them know that their nap is coming, and it helps them to anticipate that so they know what's expected of them. For example, when I was a nanny, I would keep it really super simple. So into the sleep space 10-15 minutes before their nap was due, I would go into their sleep space, whether that comes back to sleep suggestion number 2, whether that's somewhere in the lounge, you're going in the garden, wherever you're going, I would go over into their sleep space, sleep environment 10-15 minutes before, and I would just run through 2 or 3 things. And normally, more likely it would be, I would change their nappy. I would go in, I would close the curtains. For babies over 3 months, I always tend to close the curtains. There's no right, this could actually be another podcast episode, there's no right or wrong here. I just find that the babies I looked after slept better with it dark, so that was personal preference. But I would close the curtains, close the blinds, get it dark, change their nappy. If they were in jeans or dungarees, I'd probably take them off and put some leisure clothes on, some joggers or pyjama bottoms, sing a little sleepy song. If they had to feed, I would feed them, and then I would just settle them to sleep in their usual way. So some would go into some would get rocked or cuddled to sleep by me, and I'd put them down. Some would go into their cot by themselves, and I'd leave the room and give them a bit of support if needed. But just doing those 2 or 3 things in the same order really helped with that transition and to calm and cue and signal to them that it's snooze time. Sleep suggestion number 4 is practice and patience. I use these words a lot on my approach because making any changes, as I've mentioned before, change is strange, and making any type of change puts them on, it doesn't feel as familiar, puts them on a little bit more high alert. And whenever we make a change, it's going to take longer, because if we are napping them in a different room or we're doing a different routine, their brains are going to notice this, and because it's not so familiar, and they'll want to look around, start waving at things. So it is going to take them to fall asleep. It's going to take them a while to learn, well, it's not learning, but support them and know that it's okay to nap at home. And in the beginning, my suggestion for this, sleep suggestion number 4, is give them that practice and patience that it's needed to learn how to fall asleep or nap at home in a completely different way, because change is strange and it takes you much longer than you think it's going to be. When I'm working one-to-one with parents, one of the first chats I ever have with them, I have a lot of chats, so one of my first chats is I encourage parents to let go of that expectation that you're going to do something once or even twice, or you're going to and then they're going to get it, they're going to know what to do. It really does take that repetition and that practice and patience for them to get there, and it's natural to worry that they're going to get overtired as well, because they're taking a little bit longer, and that's very, very likely to happen. But what tends to happen is if we stay consistent with what we're doing, they come to anticipate it. They know what's happening, and then that time gets down. It usually comes down quite quickly with practice and patience. And then sleep suggestion number 5, push the pressure. I think I mentioned this before at the beginning. It's for a lot of, if you're listening to this and this episode is particularly resonating with you, chances are your small isn't used to napping at home, and that is a big change for them, for you and for them. And again, I'm saying it again, you must be sick of me saying this, change is strange. And my suggestion would be to push that pressure. If you follow me for a while, you might have heard me say that naps don't have to be in a cot to count, ever. Some babies, some smalls, some toddlers never sleep in a cot. Doesn't mean it's wrong. There's no right or wrong if it's working for you. And napping outside, when you can get outside, in a sling, in a pram, on you, contact naps on the breast, on the bottle, if it's working for you, all is well. And sometimes we can forget that once we're in lockdown. I think everything just gets magnified. I think when your world shrinks like that, everything gets more magnified. And then that's when that pressure starts piling on. So again, it comes back to what I was talking about in sleep suggestion 4, practice and patience. I'm always talking about this. I encourage you to lose that expectation that if your small is used to napping out and about in a sling, in a pram, in the fresh air, moving around with motion, I do encourage you, try to lose the expectation that they are going to fall straight away. They're going to fall asleep by themselves, or they're going to start napping in the cots, because some might do that. And it's amazing. Literally double air pump the air when that happens, or do my little dancing at my desk when that happens. But for the majority, because it's such a big change, they're not going to be able to do that in one fell sleep swoop. And my whole approach is we just take off that expectation that they're going to do it really, really super quickly. I call it Amazon Prime patience, and I am exactly the same. A great example of this yesterday, I was trying to fix something on the website, and the website was there was a glitch and I couldn't enter my details, and I I could feel myself just getting more and more worked up. And yeah, I was just like, why isn't this working? We're so used to everything working really quickly, really straight away. I call it Amazon Prime patience, but just give it that little bit of time to all settle down. And also that whole expectation that they're going to nap in a cot. They don't have to nap in a cot if it's not going to work for you. It's worth giving it a go. But honestly, if they don't nap in the cot, it's absolutely fine. I think, especially this is more so during these times, we just have to do what works for you. So sleep suggestion number 5 is it's okay to push that pressure. And I really do encourage you to try and shift, maybe not lose, but shift that expectation that your small is going to go from being pushed in a buggy, in a sling, movement, out and about, fresh air, napping out and about, to napping at home and falling asleep independently in the cot. We can make those changes, but that is a whopper of a change, and that comes back to everything that I've just gone through. It takes time. We might need to tweak the nap gaps a little bit. We might need to look at their sleep space. We need to set up and let them know that sleep time is coming, setting up new cues so they know what's expected of them. And then most importantly, give them that practice and patience to Amazon Prime patience. I hear it all the time. I don't believe parents make mistakes. You're making mistakes. You're doing the wrong thing. But quite often I'll talk to parents. I'll be like, oh, how long did you try that for? And they were like, oh, I put them down once, or I rocked them for a couple of minutes and they weren't going down, so I just didn't think they were going to do it. Nothing wrong with that, but it is a bit of Amazon Prime patience. We're so used to everything happening straight away that if it takes longer, we can get a little bit impatient, or we can have it. Sometimes we have a little bit of a panic. Oh goodness, they're going to get overtired. It's not working. It's not happening. I need to change tack. But breathe. Wish I could take my own advice sometimes. Breathe. It's going to take longer than you think. Embrace that time. Give them the time to do it. And finally, just push that pressure. There's so much pressure on you on parents, I think, with or without the lockdown, but especially at the moment. It's okay this is your permission to let anything go. It's okay for them to nap on you, nap in a pram outside in the garden, for them to nap in a sling, to want them in their cot, whatever's working for you. I think that's at the moment, because that's all we can do is do our best. So that time goes so quickly when I'm chatting. I really hope you found this episode useful as much as I enjoyed talking about it. I think you could apply this. We might be in lockdown at the moment, but you honestly could apply this to being at home or illness, when you've got to stay in with a sibling. Whenever you're at home, you could use this. So just to run through the 5 sleep suggestions again, I'm going to run through them really quickly. Sleep suggestion number 1, your timings might need a tweak. I'm going to put the nap gap guide in the show notes, but your nap gaps might need to grow now because your little one isn't getting as tired, and therefore they don't have enough tide in their tank to go down. So the timings might need a tweak. Sleep session number 2, switch up their sleep space. If they're not used to napping at home, it's a massive period of adjustment for you both, not only for your small, but for you. Napping in play areas, this can be very, very difficult. And there might be more people at home, more siblings. This can all have an impact on your small's naps. Now, I'm not saying we have to banish other family members. That's impossible. We've all got to live. It's got to work for everybody. We've all got to keep living, but finding somewhere, a consistent place for the nap, even if you split it, like a consistent place for the morning nap and a consistent place for the afternoon nap, that can help massively. If that's not possible, if you can, put as many toys away as possible, cover them, make it dark and quiet, like just give them just a little nudge to help them switch off a little bit smoother. Sleep suggestion number 3, signal it's snooze time. Just as we do a bedtime routine at bedtime, I think it's always a positive idea to do a little rundown before nap time. Do a little nap routine 10-15 minutes before your little one's nap is due. I would just do 2 or 3 things in the same order every single time. It doesn't need to be complicated. Sleep suggestion number 4, practice and patience. Change is strange. Are you sick of me saying that yet? And it's very, very likely that it's a transition period. It's a period where we've all got to adapt, and napping at home, making any change. Again, you could put that in any theory on my practice. It's going to take much longer than you think. So it's really difficult, but try to give them the practice and patience to do that. It's natural that you're going to worry that they're overtired, but the more consistent we do the same things, the likelihood is that your small will be able to do it quicker and quicker and quicker, and that takes care of that. And then sleep suggestion number 5, I think this is the most important one of all. It's okay to push that pressure, so much pressure on you at the best of times. And a massive intention of mine is to always help parents to help you push that pressure, whether it's parenting, sleeping pressure, peer pressure. So try to lose that expectation that you have to get them to fall asleep by themselves, and the nap has to try to lose that expectation that they're going to fall asleep by themselves, falling asleep independently, and that it has to be in a cot. It's okay to find something that works for you, and if it's working for you, all is well. Well, thank you so much for joining me on The Sleep Show. You've been listening to Kerry Secker. I have really enjoyed that. As always, I really hope you found that useful, engaging, and that you've got some little tools, some little sleep suggestions to go and put in place at home. And I will see you on The Sleep Show very soon. Big love and sleep solidarity. Thank you so much for listening to me, your host, Kerry Secker, on the Carrot Out Sleep Show. I really hope you found the podcast reassuring, informative, and a little bit fun. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe to the show below, and I'd be so grateful if you could leave me some fabulous feedback. I always love hearing from you, and one lucky listener will win lifetime access to my Bedtime Basics e-course every single month. My next podcast episode will be out in 2 weeks' time, but if you can't wait for more of my sleep shizzle, you can find me over on Instagram at Carrot Out Sleep Consultant. I update my sleep squares and speak sleep there on the daily. Big love and sleep solidarity to you all.